Can you imagine how she's feeling in this moment?
She's probably feeling so many things and she can't stab any of them. So understandably, this rocks her.
It's okay to boldly admit that you're not afraid. No matter what's happened before and no matter what anyone else says, just so like Aurea does here. And so they find a cave, not just a cave, the cave, Whitney.
Yes, the cave. So prepare yourselves, guys. We are in the cave.
The cave.
Hi, and welcome to Romantasy Remedy. I'm Whitney.
And I'm Kenzie. We're sisters-in-law and book besties who thrive on daily doses of magic and romance from our favorite fantasy stories.
So, if your emotional support animal is a dragon and your therapist has shadow powers, you're in the right place. Thanks for being here and for liking, rating, and following our show. Before we get started, this is our official content warning. Simply put, Romantasy Remedy is a podcast for grown-ups. The topics and language will reflect that. Please listen at your comfort level.
And one more thing before we dive into The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, our spoiler warning. For most of the episode, there will only be spoilers for chapters 36 through 41, but at the end of today's episode, we will have our Spoiler Central segment where we make connections to events later in the book and the entire Crowns of Nyaxia series. Don't worry, we'll give another big warning before Spoiler Central begins.
Thanks, Kenz. One of our goals at Romantasy Remedy is to highlight how books in this genre inspire readers. When we see these characters facing fears, overcoming challenges, and growing into their potential, it helps us to do the same. So each week, we'll choose a quote from the chapters we read to be an affirmation, a phrase to empower and motivate us. This week's affirmation says, "I'm not afraid." We love this because we all have times when we should embrace feeling strong and brave, even if others think that we should be scared. This is a reminder to be confident in our own mind, our own decisions, our own boldness. We base this affirmation on words spoken by the brave little serpent herself, Aurea. Keep listening to get all the details surrounding this amazing quote later in the episode. And don't forget, you can print this affirmation. The link is in our show notes in case you want to stick it on your mirror or fridge or wherever. And with that, Kenzie is going to recap what happened in this week's section of chapters.
All right, here we go. The Moon Palace decides hospitality is overrated and locks everyone inside with no food, no blood, and no exit. Rain pretends he's fine. Spoiler, he's not. And Aurea, being the sweetest little serpent, sets up a mirror to reflect sunlight for him so he can look at it without bursting into flames. Peak romance. Then, 3 weeks later, Aurea realizes Rain is starving and barely holding it together. It guts him, but she asks him to leave. He does. Then Aurea wakes up in a forest of smoke, poison deer, and feral vampires. Welcome to the Crescent Moon Trial. She finds Rain, mid-hunger spiral, chasing a deer like a man possessed. She throws herself in his path, they fight, and he barely snaps out of it in time. Together they limp off and hide in a cave. The only way for Rain to survive? Aurea's blood. She offers, he drinks, it's intimate, intense, and nearly something more, until he pulls away, worried she's being influenced by the venom. Gentleman instincts activated. The next day, they play Vampire Leapfrog. 90 seconds of flying, 90 seconds of hiding from murderous smoke. Wolves attack. Rain's wingtips get torched. Also, surprise, this cursed forest is Salinay, Aurea's home city, destroyed by Vincent. No time to process it, though, because Ivan shows up, stabs Aurea, and then Angelica appears with a bow, demanding Rain surrender. He responds by casually chucking Ivan off a cliff. Iconic. They sprint to the gate, bleeding, broken, but still standing. Waiting for them, the minister, Ibrahim, and a little surprise. Congrats, you made it. The final trial is tomorrow. Oh, and don't mind the decor. The walls of the Colosseum are now lined with impaled Rishon wings, pinned like trophies. This is horrifying. So let's talk about it.
Yes, please. Let's talk about all of this. Starting with the Moon Palace, locking the doors. Rude.
To say the least. My gosh.
So all the doors, all the windows are locked, and it doesn't replenish the food. It doesn't replenish the blood. Araya somehow has enough food to eat, and Rain claims that he has enough blood to survive until the next trial. But if I remember correctly, the timeline of this trial in past Kajaris is a little bit fluid. Like sometimes it's this many weeks and sometimes it's more weeks or less weeks. So he thinks he has enough, but who really knows? After a few days, the other contestants kind of start roaming around the Moon Palace looking for food. So for safety concerns, Rain and Araya stay put in the apartment with like furniture blocking the door and having it locked. Needless to say, there are no fun outings to Sandra's during this stretch.
No, definitely not. And I feel like, you know, Araya obviously recognizes the challenge this situation is for Rain, right? Because she does the sweetest thing for him. She positions a mirror so Rain can actually see the sun whenever he wants. And listen to what Rain does with this gift. It's so sweet. It says, every day after that, he dragged a chair to that turn of the hallway and he watched the sun rise and fall over Sivernage as if it was the most precious gift in the world. In times like that, it was too easy for me to forget the grim reality of our situation. What a precious gift that Araya gave him. Have you ever received a gift like that from someone where it like just truly changed your, I don't know, outlook of a situation?
Actually, I have, but I'm going to save that story for the for the true story portion of the episode a little bit later, and I'm so excited to tell you and everybody about it. But I also love this part because it shows that it's really not about like how much money someone spends on a gift or the quantity, but it's about someone knowing you so well that they design this gift that your heart like can't help but love it. And I think that's what happens to Rain here. This gift is so personal to him. Like Araya knows how much this means to him because remember back you know, several chapters ago when they're talking and she asks him if he misses humanity and he says he misses the sun. So she knows that this means so much to him and he doesn't come out and say it, but then he sits and like watches the sun in that mirror every day. So you know that this is a gift that means a lot to him, and it's just so sweet. Araya is like a big old softie. She doesn't want anyone to know it, but she's a big old softie.
Doesn't. And the fact that she saw that and felt that and knew that about him, and like just that kind act of service really changed it for him. You know, it's such a cool. It was a cool moment. I liked it.
So cute, so cute. I did love when Rain came out and saw that she rearranged the furniture in the living room and was like, "Well, it's happened. You've lost your mind." Well, all these warm fuzzies with Araya's sweet gift kind of get squashed. Araya figures out that Rain is getting pretty hungry and that he's out of blood. There's a night where he's very much on edge and he accidentally sets down a glass on the counter and he sets it down so hard that it cracks. So he is not willing to admit that something is wrong and that he could ever, in any circumstance, hurt Araya. And it kind of sucks because she has to be the one to lay out the truth and say, like, yes, you could hurt me. This is dangerous. And she hates it. She hates how it clearly hurts his feelings when she says this. And even more, she hates the idea of being without him. And I really feel for her because I think life can put you in a situation, not exactly like this, but similar in that you have to make a tough call, right? Where you might have to hurt someone's feelings to like protect yourself or protect somebody else. And I just feel so bad for Araya in this situation.
Of course, because you don't ever want to be the bad guy. And it's almost like she had to be a bad guy for a good reason. But there's just no way around it. It just sucks that she even had
to. Absolutely, yeah. And they fumble through a really awkward goodbye because they both, everyone knows they're in love except for them. Like they both really care about each other and they both like want to say something something meaningful before they leave, but they don't because they don't know how to voice those feelings yet. And so they fumble through this very awkward goodbye, and then Rain is just gone. And I'm so sad about it.
Me too, because you want them to have some, like, I don't know if you have closure in this moment, but we'll say closure, and it's just like an awkward goodbye. Fortunately for us and for Araya, we don't have to miss Rain for very long, because Araya wakes up in the Crescent Moon Trial that night, and it begins all over again. She's in a forest, and there's smoke everywhere, like a mist, and the smoke is painful when any body part is exposed to it. I don't know if you remember the Hunger Games. This is what it made me think of. And they're in one of the, is it the clock one? Where there's the mist and they get like those boils when the smoke touches them. That's what I pictured was that.
Great connection. I honestly, it's been so long since I read the Hunger Games that I can't confirm or deny that fact, but it sounds right. So I'm going to say yes, Kenzie. That's
sounds
correct.
Good. It reminded me of that, and that's what I pictured in my head, specifically from the movies. But just as she's kind of getting her bearings, bam, she's attacked, right? She kills that vampire, and then she notices there are 2 others eating a deer carcass nearby, because remember, they've been starving. They're ravenous, just, going for anything they can.
This really grossed me out, side note. Like, picturing these, like, vampires over a deer. Just, I don't know. It sounded really disgusting.
It is kind of. They were desperate. Got to give them a break, right? They start moving strangely. So she sees them. They're eating on this deer, and then they're moving, like, strangely, as if they have no control over their bodies. And Araya recognizes this isn't bloodlust, and she pieces together that the deer are poisoned. So they've starved all these vampires and then given them poisoned deer. And basically, Nyaxi is twisted, basically. That's the whole moral of this point, right? Because as soon as Araya figures this out, she starts running for Rain, because Rain has been locked up and has been without blood, and she locates him as he is chasing one of the poisoned deer, and she throws herself in front of him. Another example of Araya discarding caution, as she did when she heard Alana screaming at the beginning of the book. The things we do for the people we love, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think she even says, I have to look it up, but she definitely has some thoughts about doing this as she's about to do it, like how dumb it is, because he's in bloodlust and he could definitely just kill her. But she does it anyway. And like you said, it's just like Alana. She didn't even care what was going to happen to her. She just went for it. So that tells you where her feelings are with Rain. They're like 100%. On the level with Alana at this point.
That's what I'm like. That was her first reaction, was like, this isn't what I think it is. Where's Rain? I need to find Rain and stop him before he gets there. It's amazing. She basically tackles him to the ground, right? And this part made me laugh. She stabbed him before, the first time they meet, and she threatens to stab him if he doesn't get a hold of himself this time. And we all know she'll do it. And this is what snaps him out of the bloodlust haze, and she quickly gives him a very quick summary of what's happening, and then says, if I get off you, will you go run after a squirrel? So funny. And Rain's all F you, princess, as she gets up. Just their banter, even in this moment, just makes me laugh. But Araya realizes he's actually hurt and they need to find somewhere for him to rest, and so they find a cave. Not just a cave, the cave, Whitney.
Yes, the cave. If you spend any time in a corner of the internet where there are fans of this book, you're going to hear about the cave and the cave scene. Yes. So prepare yourselves, guys. We are in the cave.
The cave.
When they first get to the cave, Rain apologizes and tells Araya that she was right for asking him to leave the apartment. Araya says this. Suddenly, the anger in his voice then sounded so similar to the shame in it now. I didn't like feeling things. Emotions were ever shifting and devoid of logic, and they gave me no way to sink my blade into them. So, not surprising that Araya is freaked out by her feelings, because that happens this entire book. And as she just said, you cannot stab your feelings when you get afraid of them.
So funny.
But I do love her observation.
Sometimes.
Right? Like, anger, man. Stress, bam. Anyway, I love her observation about anger and shame here because I can totally relate to how closely linked those two emotions are. I think that sometimes when I'm really ashamed of something, it manifests as anger and I lash out about it. And I appreciate this observation she makes about how those emotions are linked, and she notices that in Rain's voice and during his apology. Also, kudos to Rain for apologizing because most vampires don't do that. Good job.
No, for sure. And I'm glad you point that out because it is true, those being so closely related. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, thank you, Araya. And after weighing the options of what they can do in this situation with Rain being injured and everything and not really having any non-poisonous animals to eat, she realizes that the only way for Rain to survive is for him to drink some of her blood. So Rain refuses at first, and then Araya says with a slight crack in her voice, "I'm not going to just sit next to you while you die, Rain." And that just made my heart hurt. Oh, so tender. Rain is just as tender in his response, saying that he knows what this means for her. And that is really interesting because she's never come out and told him details of her past. And so she even says herself, though, she's not surprised that he figured out what it means for her because he always seems to see her and see the true nature of a situation without her telling him what it is. And so somehow Rain has figured out that Araya has been a victim of vampire bloodlust before, and Araya thinks about how Rain chose to stay in the apartment with her even though he was starting to get hungry, and she comments on how agonizing that must have been for him, and how people wouldn't have blamed him if he just killed her. Like, no one would have blamed him for that, but he chose to be uncomfortable. He chose to be in pain, all for her. And so then she tells him this: "I'm not afraid of you, Rain." And this was the inspiration for our affirmation today. We love how Araya overcomes any doubts surrounding the situation by trusting Rain and trusting herself. We also might be motivated by our love for others and by having confidence in our choices. When doubts or fears come up, these are strong emotions that can ground us. So print out today's affirmation and take time to remind yourself, I'm not afraid. Kenz, is there anything you want to add about today's affirmation?
Just that this especially is helpful if it's a situation that we found scary in the past or that others find scary. It's okay to boldly admit that you're not afraid. No matter what's happened before and no matter what anyone else says, just like Araya does here. What a full circle moment coming back to when he asked if she was afraid, right? And she magicked him out the window. Now she's telling him, I'm not
that's
afraid.
Right. Yes.
Yep. So,
so good.
This is where things get really interesting and a little spicy. First, Rain hands her a dagger and says that she's in control and she can say no. Thank you, Rain. We just have to point that out. Like, always putting Araya in control. She can say no at any time. She's in control. And Araya insists, so Rain tells her one more time that she's safe. And then he bites her on the throat. And let's pause for an important world building moment and talking about vampires. So when a vampire bites someone, there's something called vampire venom. And it's supposed to make human prey pliable, right? And when the minister sucked on Araya's wrist, it presented as more of a haze. But Rain's venom seems to have a different effect because it can also present
different indeed.
Very different. It presents as intense arousal. After a few heated moments, though, Rain abruptly pulls away, saying he doesn't want Araya to do this because of the venom. And Araya, in her state, tries to persuade him otherwise. But after acknowledging that he does indeed want to, Rain holds his ground and says no. Any thoughts on the cave scene? And Rain being a total gentleman here by prioritizing Araya above all?
I definitely appreciate Rain keeping things in check. You know, we all get excited for a little spice, so we're all kind of excited to get to the cave scene and see the spice. At the same time, she is being influenced by vampire venom. I know that she says it's not from the venom, and I think she's partly right. I think she has feelings for Rain, and she probably does want to do this stuff with Rain. At the same time, in this moment, she is definitely under the influence of vampire venom, so I think Rain made the right call. I think that it's good that he pressed pause after, he got the nourishment he needed, so to speak.
Yes.
And even though Araya was like, no, I don't want to.
I think it shows so much his respect for her. And it just shows how much respect and admiration he has for her by not taking advantage. That sounds terrible, but taking advantage of that situation and making sure that it's 100% her choice.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I'm sure Rain wants to do is be any kind of regret. And yeah.
Agree.
So good job, Rain. And just to give him a few more wins from this situation, when Araya starts to feel sleepy because, blood loss and other movements, Rain lays her down. And the last thing Araya hears is Rain saying, "You are the most stunning thing I've ever seen, Araya." Oh, swoon. Thank you, Rain. These two wake up snuggling in the cave, and they immediately start making a plan to move through the trial. The biggest problem being the weird death smoke that pops up frequently. So Smarty Pants Rain remembers seeing a cloak made from Avathrian silk on a Shadowborn competitor who, I think he killed him, actually. I think Rain killed the Shadowborn competitor, but he remembers, he was wearing this cloak. And he goes to get this cloak alone, and while he's gone, Araya actually starts thinking about Nyaxia and how Nyaxia must have felt when the gods of the White Pantheon took Alaris, and she was alone trying to find him and save him. And so this trial actually represents that part of Nyaxia's journey. And Araya comments on how horrible it is to be out of reach of someone that you care about and powerless to protect them. I love this connection that Araya makes to Nyaxia. She's really started to show how empathetic she is. And we've theorized before that maybe Nyaxia has a soft spot for Araya. And I wonder if this is one reason why. I wonder if Nyaxia also feels a connection to Araya in some ways. But what do you think about that comment on being powerless to protect somebody that you care about? Is that something you can relate to or you felt before?
I feel like I can't I know I've had those feelings before, or powerless in helping yourself at times. And it's almost immobilizing. It kind of just shuts you down. And so I think it says so much that she can move through it, and that she can empathize with someone else's situation in that. Because I feel like when I've been in those situations, or I've had moments where I have felt completely out of control and powerless, I just shut down, and I'm not thinking about other people or what they would have gone through or how that can help me in my situation. I think I just kind of, have you ever seen fainting goats? I just turn into a fainting goat, and I'm just there until I'm not, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's amazing. And I love this character development with Araya, and how we're seeing more empathetic sides to her instead of just survival sides.
I love that comment too. And I think I love the comparison to a fainting goat the most. That's amazing. So good. Unfortunately for Nyaxia, when she finds Alaris, Alaris was dead. But fortunately for Araya, Rain comes back, and she doesn't end up having to go look for him. And he has this cloak made from Avathrian silk. And the reason he went to get it is because Avathrian silk is crazy strong, and it filters out stuff. So the plan is for Rain to wear this cloak and hold Araya and start flying. And they've timed it so they know the smoke will come every 90 seconds. And when it starts to come, they're going to just both huddle under the cloak together and then wait 90 seconds and then get up and start flying again. So solid plan. It's really the only option they have. So
they're a great team.
Tell us, tell us how this plan works out, Kenz. How's it go?
Well, at first it's working really well. They've got it down. They know what they're doing. But about halfway to their destination, Rain and Araya are attacked by wolves. And unfortunately, Rain gets the worst of this because he's bitten by a wolf. And the distraction of the attack caused the tip of his wings to be uncovered when the smoke rolled through. And as we know, flying is part of this plan. And so these injuries slow them down. But they finally get close to an arch, which is the gateway out of the trial, right? And as they approach this arch, Rain stops suddenly. And Araya says that anger and fear and devastation painted over every one of Rain's features. And Rain picks up the remnants of a street sign and realizes that they're in the ruins of Salonay. And what is Salonay, you ask? Salonay was one of the biggest Rishon cities. 500,000 people lived there, according to Rain. And when the Rishon were in power, it was actually their second capital. And if you look actually at the beginning of the book, Salonay is on that map just west of Sivernaj. And most importantly, let's point this out too.
I'm going to look right now. I want to see. Where's the map?
I love that you have the hard copy because on the Kindle, it's so hard to read the maps.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That, no one needs to do that. The Kindle maps are terrible.
Terrible. Yes.
But yes, you're right. It is just west of Sivernaj. Cool. I love it.
Rishon City, 500,000 people, but most importantly, Salonay is where Vincent found Araya, and where Araya had planned to return once she had the Coriatis bond. So, to go look for and liberate her human family. And because of her personal ties to it, Araya has studied Salonay extensively. And in this moment, when she sees Rain do that, she recognizes piles of rock that should have been buildings like the city hall and the library. And she also recognizes the smell in the air as the Asteries, and then she remembers Vincent's words after the Moon Palace attack when he said, "I will spare no one. I will not spare your wives or your children." And sadly, Vincent had not only killed all the Rishon in Salonay, but all the humans as well. Can you imagine how she's feeling in this moment?
She's probably feeling so many things, and she can't stab any of them. So, understandably, this rocks her world.
Man.
It's one thing for Rain to have this realization because he is Rishon, and so he has that connection to this city. And then it's another thing for Araya, though, because, it's her father who did this, and her father knew her lifelong ambition to return to Salonay. Like, that was the whole reason he told her about Coriatis bonds and stuff, is because she was asking when she could go to Salonay and liberate her human family. And so since she was a young child, she has had this plan to go to Salonay after she has the Coriatis bond. And so
it wasn't a secret. He knew this.
Yes. So this is a huge betrayal. And as she's grappling with this, Araya says, "Everything inside of me turned to ice, and I was grateful for it. I would rather be cold and hard and feel nothing than confront this, even though I could feel my grief there, burning under the surface, far too hot to be contained by even a lifetime of frigid control." I feel like so many of us can relate to Araya here, because think about all the ways that we try to numb ourselves rather than confront difficult feelings or heartbreaking situations. And so when she's talking here about turning to ice, I feel like so many of us can relate to that, including me.
100%. It's truly a survival technique, because I think when we've experienced those moments, we're also not in a death contest in the middle of the trial where we're also having to make it through. I can't imagine.
No, me either. So heartbreaking for poor Araya. And they don't have a lot of time to process this because Ivan shows up and attacks them right after they figure this out. And remember that Ivan is the bloodborne vampire who is partnered with Angelica in the Half Moon Trial. And so Araya, I guess she kind of senses him coming first, and she pushes Rain out of Ivan's path. And as she's doing that, Ivan slices Araya's stomach. Rain comes back furious at Ivan, of course, and is about to kill him when Angelica shows up, and she's pointing an arrow at Araya, and she tells Rain to let Ivan go. And this kind of cracks me up. But Rain is like, okay, you want me to let him go? I'll let him go. And he does, lets him go right off a cliff.
Oh, love it.
After he does that, he grabs Araya and just like, it's a mad dash at that point to get to the arch. They hear Angelica crying out in grief as they barrel through the arch and land in an empty Colosseum, which is unusual because usually when they land in the Colosseum, all of the vampires are there watching and cheering and having a grand time like the Super Bowl or something.
Vincent's always right there.
Right, exactly. But it doesn't look like that. And so this seems very ominous.
Right. And rightfully so, because Ibrahim and the minister are in the empty Colosseum. And so those are the only two people there. Weird. And after congratulating them on surviving, the minister informs them that the new moon trial will be held tomorrow, not in 3 weeks like the most Kajaris where they have time to recover, kind of replenish, they get a feast, all those things. He says that Nyaxia understands that Sivranaj may not exist in 3 weeks. And then Araya and Rain notice that while the Colosseum is empty, it's actually lined with the bodies on stakes, each with a pair of feathered Rishon wings pinned below. Terrible. So Vincent has clearly gone after the Rishon after that Moon Palace attack in a very big and very public way. And we'll talk about more about all the ramifications of Vincent's actions in the next episode. Sadly, this is where our discussion ends today.
Oh, man, that's okay. We'll talk about all the things in the next episode, right? This is where we're going to stop our exploration of the Serpent and the Wings of Night for today. And each episode, we're going to share a true story that connects to lessons learned in the chapters we read. I mentioned this earlier, so here we go. Today's true story is inspired by Araya's sweet personal gift to Rain. And so this is from something that happened to me, and I'm excited to tell you guys about it. Once upon a time, I was a poor college student, and at this point, I had a job that was on campus, but it pretty much just covered my rent and my food. So there wasn't much wiggle room in my budget. Otherwise, life was pretty good, though. I had just started dating a really cute, really handsome, really fun guy, and my classes were going well. I liked my roommates, so life was good. But then one day, I just had one of those days. I can't even tell you what happened that day. I probably, forgot to turn in an assignment or woke up late, had to eat cereal for dinner, who knows. It's just one of those days. Despite forgetting most of the details, what I do remember, and this is going to sound silly, but what I do remember is that it all culminated in my hair straightener not turning on. So if you are from the same generation that I am, a true millennial, you will know that the hair straightener was like the queen of all hair tools. And it was pretty much necessary in my life. And so the fact that it wouldn't turn on at the end of this extremely annoying, frustrating day felt crushing to me at the time.
It's a big deal.
I vented. It is a big deal. And so I vented about it to, whoever I could. I vented about it to my roommates, to my boyfriend, to my mom, and went to bed with no intention of getting a new hair straightener because, like I said, I had no money. I can't remember how many days passed after that. Not many, but I was having a normal day. And other than the fact that my hair was probably in a gross ponytail because I had no hair straightener. And on this particular day, I came home from school and work to find a package on my doorstep. It was just wrapped in brown paper bag type of paper, and it just had my name written across it. So I was a little perplexed because it wasn't my birthday, and I took the package inside and opened it, and can you guess what was inside? It was a hair straightener, and a really nice hair straightener. I was floored. I couldn't believe that someone had A, listened to me complain about this hair straightener, and then B, cared enough to help me out and get one for me. So after some detective work, I figured out that it was my then boyfriend and now husband who had gifted me this hair straightener, which made it even better that it like wasn't from my mom or my roommates, because you know this, Ken's, because our husbands are brothers. They're from a family of all boys. So that meant he had literally zero knowledge of hair straighteners. I found out that he had to call his friend's wife and talk to her to figure out what hair straightener to go and buy. And just the fact that
so sweet.
He put in this effort, and he knew that like it might have sounded like a stupid thing to anybody else, but he picked up on this little detail in my life that and he wanted to fix it. So it meant so much to me at the time, and I was really touched that he cared enough about me to make that happen. So just like Araya moving the mirror around the apartment because she knew how much it would mean to Rain, that moment in the book reminded me of this experience in my own life. So that is my true story about a hair straightener.
That's so good. I'd never heard that story before, but I love it. And
really?
It is no, I've never heard that story before. It's so funny. But it is those little things, right? It's the little things that just make your day easier, or you find joy in, like being able to get ready or being able to see the sun. It's the little things that make a huge difference just on a daily basis. I love it. Thank you so much.
And just like
so sweet.
When someone else, just knowing like someone else cares about your little things as much as you do, it just is so, I don't know. It's just the best. So
it's a good one. That was a great story. I love it.
I can't believe you didn't know that story.
I did not know that
thought you told like all the stories.
Nope.
That's
a
awesome.
new one.
I love it.
Before we go, let's take a quick moment to express gratitude to a character who we admire from this stretch of chapters. And today's note is for Rain. So here it goes. Dear Rain, thank you for proving, again, that strength isn't just about bloodshed and battle. Sometimes it looks like trust. When Araya told you to leave the apartment, you listened, even though it hurt. When she found you in that cave, you let her help, even though you didn't want to be seen like that. In one of the most vulnerable, charged moments between you, you reminded us all what true respect looks like. Her safety, her choice, always. And then when everything was on the line, you still had the strength to get her through that gate, bruised, battered, starving, but never wavering. You didn't just survive, you protected, respected, and chose Araya again and again. And for that, we are endlessly grateful. So from your friends at Romantasy Remedy, Rain, thank you.
Thank you, Rain. And thank you, Ken's, for reading that. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would love to have you leave a review or some comments wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'd love to hear from you guys, and we're excited to talk more about The Serpent and the Wings of Night next week in our next episode.
See you then.
We have reached the end of the main portion of our episode. Thank you so much for listening. Look for Romantasy Remedy on Instagram and TikTok. Check the show notes for those links, as well as links to the printable affirmation and soundtrack playlist on Spotify.
We're really looking forward to connecting with you and nerding out over all the best romantasy. After this, we'll begin the Spoiler Central segment of the episode, which you shouldn't listen to if you haven't finished the entire series, including the rest of this book. We're totally those book besties where one of us reads at a normal speed and one of us reads faster than you can winnow from here to Valaris. Since Whitney is a speed reader, I'm going to duck out while she does Spoiler Central.
All right, you've been warned. Here come the spoilers. This will be short and sweet today. My first item in Spoiler Central is when Rain and Araya are talking about how Rain needs to leave the apartment because he's gone too long without having any blood. Araya says, "In this moment, I wanted nothing more than to live my entire life the way we had been over these last few weeks, building something like a home in this shitty, dark palace." Well, rest easy, Araya, because you do get to spend your life with Rain. By the end of this book, Rain and Araya have gotten married, though she wasn't super happy about it. And then halfway through Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, she decides she is happy about it. And by the end of that book, they really are striving to make something more of the House of Night together. Gotta love a happy ending. My second item in Spoiler Central today takes place when Araya wakes up in the Crescent Moon Trial. She figures out that the deer are poisonous and then says her head emptied, save for his name. This is so similar to the way that she wakes up after she's knocked out by Septimus in The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Remember, when she wakes up, she kills the Bloodborne guards and says, "I was still so angry I couldn't speak, couldn't think except for one word, one name, Rain." In both books, she goes on to save Rain's life. So, great job, Araya. Thanks for focusing on Rain and making sure it didn't die. And that's all I have for Spoiler Central today. Thanks again for listening to Romantasy Remedy. Join us again next week as we continue exploring The Serpent and the Wings of Night.